Hello guys, how you going? Screezilla here. So today we are going to be looking at the Henschel HS-123, one of the first dive bombers for the German line that you're going to get, the plane before the Ju-87 Stukas. So this plane here is a pretty good plane actually. Doesn't have a huge bomb load to it, but it works out pretty well. It's a pretty decent little ground attacker. Mainly because it turns on a dime, as the Americans would say. It's really good at turning. It's not the fastest plane you're going to see, but it doesn't need to be. So let's start on the history of this plane. So the HS-123 was a single-seater dive bomber and close support aircraft, attack aircraft. As you can see, it's a biplane. Pretty obvious, that one. One of the few biplanes in the game. It's a little bit more of a modern design to other biplanes, but we'll get into that a little bit further on. So it flew during the Spanish Civil War and late into World War II. It was only withdrawn from service due to lack of spare parts and airframes available in 1944. Production of the plane had ended in early 1940, so there wasn't many left of these things around, and there was no real spares for it. There was nothing to keep them running, although they were a very popular plane actually. In the Spanish Civil War, it sort of was almost a testing ground for the German army. This plane was one of the sort of stars, you can say, of that conflict for the Germans. Supporting the nationalists, although Hitler was worried this could bring another world war, which he wasn't really ready for at the time, he insisted on sort of getting the Italians involved and a few of his own nation involved in the battle. With some German troops starting out, they sort of formed their own unit, the Condor Legion. The Condor Unit, I think it was, sorry, not Legion. It did provide vital for weapon testing, especially for the Luftwaffe, which were just sort of getting back to formation after the First World War. So they developed a lot of planes there, the FW-109, the Ju-87, which was the replacement for the HS-123. It's also where Germans sort of got the hang of dive bombing and sort of got their striking technique down to a pat, almost. It's where they sort of tested their thought process on the matter. And these sort of, the dive bombing, the Blitzkrieg attacks proved vital in the Germans' war effort, especially in the early stages of the war, when they were invading Poland. So Henschel and Son, who originally were a locomotive factory, they originally made locomotives, were founded in 1810. They actually still make trains to this day and still make carriages and trains, also trams up to this day. I think they still have Henschel in the name, but they may have some different names on there now. They did merge with a couple of different companies. In 1933, with Hitler coming to power, the Henschel company moved to manufacture of war vehicles and planes, of course, with the Panzer I being one of their main vehicles of manufacture in the factories. They also got licensed to produce the Doya Do-17Z in their factory. Henschel knew they needed their own designs as well to aid the company's value and worth for the new order. So in 1933, Germany needed a new ground attack aeroplane and dive bomber for the reborn Luftwaffe. But if Henschel and rival company Fusler started to make their new planes, the HS-123 proved to be the winner of this battle over the Fi-98, which had a smaller payload and was a much older design of biplane. It had the straps and the cables in the wing techniques here, where the Henschel doesn't. As of April the 1st, 1935, the HS-123 V1 took flight, taken to the sky by General Ernest Ude, the second highest scoring ace of the First World War, and also one of the leaders of the Luftwaffe in the early stages. He pretty good pilot he was. He was the highest scoring ace to survive the war as well, so he knew what he was doing. He didn't mind the plane actually. He found it quite a good plane to use. Its diving capabilities, the speed was good, and its handling and durability. So the first flight had the BMW 132 engine installed, producing 650 horsepower. The second, by a more powerful American Wright Cyclone with around 770 horsepower. The Wright Cyclone, of course, being an American engine, was not favoured by the Germans. They wanted something else they could use, so they went back to the BMW engine. Although the plane looked very outdated at its time, it was actually quite advanced for a biplane. More advanced. It had no bracing, it just had the struts in it. It was a full metal construction as well. So it was a metal construct of the actual monocoque and wings, things like that. So it was pretty durable. And it was also a sesquiplane, a smaller lower wing to the larger top wing, which gave it much better sort of manoeuvrability, things like that. Also gave it better lift as well, which was vital for the bombs. So here we see us getting in a little bit of a dogfight here, which is one of the things the plane is quite good at. It's very durable, and it's quite a good little dogfighter because of the manoeuvrability. The weapons are not great. You know, you've only got the small caliber machine guns on board, but they do the job. Bye-bye Hurricane. As you saw, we had a Japanese plane on our tail there, the KI-27 on our tail there, blasting away at us. We survived that, thankfully. So, although the HS-123 eliminated the more conventional Fi-98 with its superior handling and ability, especially to pull out of a near vertical dive, it's very good at pulling out of dives. It did have some issues. The first couple of prototypes actually had wing failures and caused it to crash. But they did end up putting the BMW engine back in, but they'd upgraded it to produce 880 horsepower by the time it was used. So, the version we have in the game, which is the HS-123 A-1, which is the one flying here. Sorry about that. The only real difference in this plane to the A0, the first generation, is an armoured headrest. Nothing else is really different. There was also the cowling, so just at the front there you'll see. So you sort of see the cowling when we get there. There we go, just in front of the plane there. So that was the only real difference for aerodynamics. The actual original test bed as well. Shots in on him just to make sure he's dead. So, the autumn of 1936, the plane entered service with STG-162. The plane's life as a dive bomber was sorry, I lost my notes there. The plane's life as a dive bomber was cut short as a year into the service the unit received the Ju-87 Struckers, doing 87As. Used in the Spanish Civil War with the formation of the Condor Legion, the Horse Legion, sorry, 5 planes were sent to Spain, intended to be used as tactical bombers. In their intended role, the HS-123 was a bit of a failure, in all honesty. As a tactical bomber, it didn't work. It didn't have enough fuel load, it didn't have enough payload. The main issue was the fuel capacity, however. They did have a secondary fuel tank attached to the plane for longer flights, but it did mean less payload, which really defeated its role. Instead, the tactical bombers, the HS-123 based in Seville, were used as close ground support role. With their limited fuel range, it didn't matter too much as they were sort of close to the action, so it didn't become an issue with that fuel range. And with the stability of the plane, and the decent payload, and also the accuracy which the pilots could drop the bombs, the plane proved extremely good at this close ground support role. It was fantastic at it. The plane could also receive a lot of punishment, as we've seen here. It took a good hammering there, but the plane could take an enormous amount of punishment before it would go down, which is one of the things that I love about it in the game. Is you can get in a good dogfight with somebody, and unless you get a pilot sniped, you don't go down very easily. It takes a lot to kill one of these, and when I say a lot, I mean a yak free with cannons blasting at it to kill it. The only way it dies is by fire. It's pretty durable in that respect. So the plane, in its real life counterpart, was so resilient under battle conditions. It often came back with massive holes in its airframe, massive damage to the airframe and also to the engine as well. Because it was an air-cooled engine, it didn't matter too much that it got pierced. It just kept going, which was really handy. The Spanish nationalists were actually so impressed by the plane, they placed a large order for one wing plus 11 planes. The Spanish Angelito, as it was called, or Dear Angel, Little Angel, translated roughly, was in service until after the Second World War with the Spanish Air Force. It survived the whole war with them, flying with them as well. They loved it. In the Second Sino-Japanese War, 12 HS-123s were exported to China and sold to the Chinese Air Force, where it was extensively used as a dive bomber and scored a lot of success against the Japanese fleet along the Yangtze River. It had a very successful couple of flights along there and caused a lot of damage to the Japanese shipping fleets, although the Japanese planes proved to be more than a match for this one. The Chinese Air Force lack of experience, lack of pilots and lack of resources did cause to be their downfall. As World War II came along, during the Poland to Greece offensive, with only 39 surviving HS-123s left at that stage, World War II did not look too good for the plane. It was very outdated, falling very much out of favour with the German generals because they wanted more advanced looking, more high-tech planes. They didn't want biplanes flying around. Much like the Swordfish was one of their least favourite planes of the British, because they hated the fact that something like that could damage their magnificent new technology. But the reason some of these technologies still exist is because, well, they're still useful. The remaining planes were assigned to LG-2. The plane proved its worth still, however. The single unit proved to be a big factor in battle. It also had a psychological effect on the Polish troops because the pilots would actually change the pitch of the engine note to sound like gunfire, like machine gun fire when flying over their trenches and things like that. So it had that psychological effect. Also, because it was such a low-flying plane, the Polish troops despised it because it was scary. They knew that one of these was coming over. Their trenches were not safe, their positions were not safe, because these things flew low to the ground, could drop a bomb on a person without any issue. They were that accurate. It was actually based also very close to battles. It was always on the first airfield made by the Luftwaffe. Because it was extremely rugged and easy to repair, it could land on anything, just in a field. It didn't really matter where it was landing. It could take the punishment, and it would always come back to base. You could have a lot of damage to it, and it would just end up coming back home. So with the success of the plane considered obsolete, it was back in action for the Blitzkrieg offensive, attacks on the Netherlands and France. Generals were so impressed by the quick turnaround offered by LG-2, and it meant that this plane was kept in position, especially on 4 bases. It was pivotal in the close air support. It was really useful. People preferred it over things like the Stuka and things like that because it was just much easier to fly, much more robust, and it just had that bit more accuracy to it. The 32 remaining planes were mothballed after the offensive in France and the Netherlands because of the outbreak of the Battle of Britain. The 123 was unable to cross the channel. It didn't have enough fuel range, so that was it for it, they thought. So they mothballed it, and they equipped the 109E fighter bombers that were used in the same role that the 123 had been used in. However, the 109 didn't prove to be as effective because it was much harder to take off with the bomb load it carried, and it didn't perform as well as this one at low altitude attacking runs. So they were retired after the Battle of Britain. It didn't last long though, because soon Operation Barbarossa began, and the 32 remaining planes were taken off life support, given a bit of a clean-up and sent back to the air, and put into service on the Eastern Front. The planes were actually field modified a lot with new weapons, armour, even variants with cannons attached onto the wings. A few of them had 20mm cannons placed under the wings instead of a payload of bombs, and these proved extremely good at tank busting. So the HS-123 proved to still have a role, and actually was better suited for the harsh environment of Russia. Many of the German planes at the time, like the Stuka, the Fokker-Wulfs, the Bf-190s, things like that, they had water-cooled engines, things like that, which would freeze over in the winters. And because it was such a harsh climate, they had issues with running this plane. So the HS-123 was much more reliable. At one stage, it was flying, I think it was 4 times more missions per day than any other plane on the battlefield. It was doing a lot of the work, especially in the Battle of Kursk. So much so that in January of 1943, the Commander-in-Chief of the Luftwaffe, the fourth Air Group, asked if the plane could be restored for production. He wanted it back in the air. He wanted more of these planes because they were pivotal in turning the tides in certain battles at Kursk. Unfortunately, Henschel had dismantled the jigs and the tools that were needed to assemble the plane, so it was not really feasible to get it back into production in time. So the HS-123 had to battle on with just the few remaining planes it had. After taking part in the Battle of Kursk, the last remaining unit to use these planes returned to Crimea, and in late spring of 1944 they finally gave up on the last HS-123. They finally gave up their last one to get a Ju-87, a plane that was meant to replace this back in 1937, and the pilots preferred it still, and so did the units prefer this plane over the Ju-87. By 1945, a few remaining planes were put into secondary duty, such as supply runs, glider towing, things like that, for the remaining German Army, German Air Force, and sadly none of them survived. So there was no surviving members of this plane, and then there's been none found, which is a real shame because it was a very underestimated plane. It's almost the German swordfish, you could say. It was outdated, unloved, but it did a bloody good job. So the Henschel HS-123 proved to be an adept plane and rugged. It was also very reliable aircraft. Could be effective as a combat weapon. Despite its antiquated looks, the HS-123 proved itself to be a formidable adversary in World War II. It sort of, as I said, it was a good little plane. It was great at ground attacks. It was decent in a turn fight. You know, not the best dogfighter in the world, but it was hard to hit because it was a tiny little plane. A bit like the PO2 Nightwitch, the one that the Nightwitch is used. A very small little biplane, very handy for what it was used for. So, on to some details about the plane. So, as I said before, the HS-123 has the so it has your dual-mounted machine guns on the front here. So it's got two 7.92mm MG-17s, carries 1,000 rounds, which is plenty. Just keep them short bursts, just not to jam the gun. You're not going to do wondrous damage to a plane with it, but you will take out planes in a dogfight because you just have that maneuverability factor. Payload, the first payload is 4 50kg bombs, which are located under the wings, and then you'll also get the 250kg bomb for the midsection there. Now these bombs are a little bit harder to use, but they prove effective. You can do some serious damage with them. The 50s, they have to be pretty much on target to do much, but they do prove to be half decent. And the 250, that will take out most things, even quite a few tanks in game. We have a P40 coming in to try and head on us, dart out the way, and he did not get that kill. As I say, the manoeuvrability of this thing is just awesome. It's a brilliant little plane to manoeuvre in. Top speed's 185 miles per hour, an altitude of 8,000 meters. Sorry, an altitude of 4,000 meters. Maximum altitude is 8,000 meters. Turn time's about 15.8 seconds. Climb rate 10 meters per second, and you can take off in about 290 meters of runway, about 70 miles per hour for your takeoff speed, which is not bad because it has so much lift from the biplane setup. All in all, it's a great little plane. I would recommend it for anyone that wants to sort of learn how to use an attacker and a ground attacker. It's a really good little plane to get used to. It's also really good for low-tier dogfighting. As you've seen, usually in the game with this, I'll take out one or two planes. Most planes I won't have any difficulty with. Don't head on too much because you're more at risk there with your pilot, of course, because there's no frontal armour, and also your engine's going to take a hammering. But with the back armour, it means you can take a few shots from behind, and your pilot won't usually die. So the main thing for this is just to make sure you get people trapped into a turn fight, because they're never going to win it, unless they're an I-16 or something like that, one of the Russian sort of biplanes. Then you've got to do a bit more work for it. But all in all, it's really good. The bombing's a little bit hit or miss sometimes. I'm not the greatest at dive bombing in this game. I do struggle a little bit. I really wish I'd have a bombing radial, because it's just sometimes you think you're on target, and then all of a sudden you watch your bombs go off, think, okay, they're going to definitely hit, and they just spread out way too much, like those for example. But the 250, you pretty much can get that on target on most things. So we'll watch here as it goes down, and 4 kills. Nice and easy because it's got such a wide blast radius. For ground attacking with the guns, it's really easy because it's so slow moving. You don't have to worry too much about hitting the ground too quickly. You can pull up so quickly in this plane as well. It's so manoeuvrable in that respect. So you don't have to worry too much about darting and dodging things. For a plane for researching as well, it's really quite handy. I've actually managed to research for Wolf 109s with this plane, because just by tooling around, just killing a few things, because you get so many little kills out of this plane. You can score so many points so quickly in this plane. It's unbelievable sometimes. So that's the Henschel HS-123. I hope you enjoyed this review, guys. I hope you found it interesting, and of course, as always, any feedback is more than welcome. And I hope you enjoyed the video. I think I just said that, didn't I? So, next time I'll be looking at, not sure yet, we'll see what happens. Hopefully the video will be about a week's time. Again, I'm sorry about the delays on the videos of late. I've been a bit sick, so it's been a bit troublesome getting them out. But, yeah, from that I will catch you later. Have a good day, safe flying, to Screezilla out.